Sister Schrader had a question. And we're going to let all of you see this because this is a very important question. Okay? That's your grandmother. She had a question. Now, there are a lot of things. Like I said, there's a time element in learning. You can't go any further than what you have a foundation to stand on, okay? How many of you know that there's going to be a resurrection? Okay? How many resurrections are we going to have? Huh? At least. Let's look at that now. Here. We're going to study the church, but it's very important. We live in the church age. See that right there? Thank you, Ray. This really is wonderful. Here's the church age. This is where Jesus died on the cross. The church was started in his early ministry, which we're going to see that in just a few minutes. But there is a resurrection right here after he came from the dead, didn't he? Now, a lot of people don't understand exactly everything about this resurrection, neither do I. So I'm not ignorant with everybody. I'm just as ignorant as everybody else is. I know that some of these people were raised and they were Old Testament saints. And that these Old Testament saints may have been raised forever, which I probably believe that's what happened. That's my opinion, okay? So there was a resurrection when Jesus, and what resurrection do we call this, Brother Ray? The first fruits of the resurrection. To show it's possible, okay? It's possible. We have two examples of the rapture in the Bible. Do you believe in the rapture? The rapare, that's the Latin word. You believe in the rapture where God's going to come back, and there's three different views of it. That it will be here at the beginning of the tribulation period, the mid-tribulation, and post-tribulation. The post-tribulation I don't think is possible at all. Mid, maybe. I mean, it's possible. Pre-tribulation is what I believe. And I have a lot of background underneath me to believe that, okay? The whole Bible. Now, right here, there's going to be a resurrection. At the rapture, who's going to go first? The dead in Christ are going to rise first. And I think they're going to at least go up at least 6 to 10 feet before the rapture people start changing, because God is going to let the living see the power and the beauty of the glory of the resurrection. Okay? Did you catch that? You got it? Got it, Emma? That the people that are alive on earth is going to see the graves open up, and at least they're going to be 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 feet in the air when all of a sudden they're changed. Because they will be witnesses to that beautiful resurrection, okay? Witnesses to that beautiful resurrection. Now, that's right here. I really believe that. I think it's a pre-tribulation rapture. I believe in a pre-millennial coming of Christ. Some churches don't believe this. They're all millennialists, post-millennialists, all this kind of stuff. Southern Baptist Convention was post-millennial for a long time. And regardless of what John A. Broadus and A.T. Robertson, Ben Bogard, and Pendleton, all them said. They were what they called sour grapes in there to them at that time. And James Boyce. Anyway, we believe that the rapture is going to take place here, 1 Corinthians 4, 16 and 17, and with that is a resurrection. Isn't it, young lady? You got any problems with that? Okay. Now, you read a verse to me out of your Bible earlier. Do you still have your Bible open to that place? Yes. Can you come right up here and read that for me? Because I cannot hear you over there with the... And this is Sister Schrader, okay? You live down the road from me.
But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection.
Okay. All right. The first resurrection. Did you get all of that? That's Revelation 20 and what?
Verse 5.
20 and verse 5. Now, there is a resurrection here at the end of the tribulation period. All right? That resurrection at the end of the tribulation period is the resurrection of all of those that died during the tribulation period. Now, if it was at the end of the time, who are they? If all the saved are going to be raptured or are raised at that time, who is going to go on their live bodies in the kingdom? Nobody. The last of the week people say, well, that's just the elect that's raptured and resurrected. Only the elect. Who's the elect, Brother Ray?
All the way from Adam on down.
All the way from Adam this way. Everybody. And when was their names written in the Lamb's Book of Life? In eternity past. Okay? Now, at the end of this 1,000-year reign, there's going to be The devil is, by the way, the devil, according to Revelation 27:9, has been in the bottomless pit. Your amillennialists believe that the devil's in the bottomless pit today. And there's no demonic influence on the world. Do you agree with that? I don't think so. Okay, that's pretty irrational. And the postmillennialists believe, these are different people now. These are what the Southern Baptists, in around 1900, the Southern Baptists said, give us $9 million and we'll bring in the millennium. And that's postmillennial view, that after we bring in the millennium, then the Lord's going to come back. We believe in the premillennial return of Christ, okay? The amillennialists don't believe in any millennial at all, that the millennium is only in your heart today. And I know this is very confusing to some of you. This takes a long time to understand it, doesn't it, Brother Ray?
Yes, sir.
How about the Lord's Supper? Does it take you a long time to get that down straight?
Well, I got it completely straight now.
You got her now, don't you?
All the way.
All the way, straight now. Is there a time on it and learning you don't know that?
Yeah.
It helps if you learn it right the first time.
Yeah.
All right. So at the end of this period of time, there's a resurrection of all of these that are saved during the tribulation period that have died. And then 1,000 years later, Satan is turned out, Revelation 27:9, on to go out and gather his armies. And who are some of those areas that he's going to gather? What are they called? Gog and Magog. Okay, they're going to go out and they're going to fight against God. And, of course, it's not going to be much of a battle. This is a battle of Gog and Magog, the battle of Gog and Magog. And they're going to go hit the ground. God's going to kill every one of them real fast. And then there's going to be a white throne judgment. And everybody from here all the way to there that was dead in Christ, that's dead, lost, don't know Jesus, they're going to be resurrected. Now, hell is a long time. Let me tell you about hell. Hell in the Old Testament, hell began right over here someplace. Sheol. All right, Sheol began over here. Sheol is called what? Anybody know Sheol? Brother Roger? The place I ask about. How about Hades? Hades. Hades means what? The place not seen. The place not seen. Now, everybody in Hades is going to be resurrected. That's still there from all this period of time. And they're going to be resurrected in unglorified, non-glorified bodies. People die of diseases, don't they? They die of cancer. Yes, Marilyn.
Gog and Magog's Turkey, isn't it?
Gog and Magog is in Turkey. Marilyn, there's a beeper going off someplace.
Yeah, it's, you did something with the dishwasher.
Gog and Magog is going to have where was I? Oh, hell. Okay. Hell, Sheol and Hades is going to be, all those people are going to be resurrected in their unglorified bodies with whatever they died of, congestive heart failure, all of the pains of cancer, degenerated back disease and everything. They're going to be resurrected with all of that pain still. Except their bodies won't die. Their bodies will never die. And then they're going to be thrown in hell fire. That's the lake of fire. That's eternal hell. H-E-L-L, not Hades. Now, this is H-E-L-L. Hell now is opened up, and they're going to be thrown in there. All of the Antichrist, the beast, the Mahdi, or whoever he is, the false prophet, all of these are going to be in there in this place of torments. And demons and fallen angels are all going to be in here. And during this tribulation period, demons went out and did what? What did they do, Brother Ray? They tormented people. I don't know for sure about this little thing. But the tribulation period is a preview of coming attractions, isn't it? A preview of hell. They're gnawing their tongues for pain. The sun is blistering them. And absolutely God is baptizing them in fire. A lot of the translations say with fire, but in Greek it says in pyros, in fire. They're immersed in fire during that tribulation period. The sun burns down on them like fire. And all it does is get them ready for hell. Because hell's going to be that way forever. Now, some people are bad, good people, and some people are better, good people, aren't they? There's people. Have you ever known a good Mormon, good Jehovah's Witness, or any of these kind of people? Do you think they got a chance in heaven? No. Not unless they believe in Jesus Christ as their Savior and lay all that stuff by. You might even find a good Muslim, or whatever else. But there will be degrees in hell. There's degrees in heaven. Heaven is not a place where it's all level ground, is it? It says in the resurrection, people are like the stars of heaven. Some are bright and some are dim. There are different rewards. Why in the world would you work so hard today? You see some people just flopping around after they're saved, and you know that they're really saved, but they just flop around out there. Do you think they're going to get the same rewards as those that are really serving the Lord? I told you before, the church. You asked about last week about church. First time you saw the church last week, Sister Schrader. The church is a total separate entity from the family of God and from those that are saved. It's a different entity. All of these people in the family of God, all these people in the kingdom of God are going to be saved. There aren't going to be unsaved people in heaven, but there's going to be different levels of people. There is going to be different levels of people in hell. Did you learn something today, young lady? This is a bad subject. This is a terrible subject. Those people in hell will be raised with all the infirmities they had before they died that killed them. They will still feel those pains, and they will feel the pains of hell forever. Now, does this give you a little bit of want to try to get your family saved and people that you don't know that are lost? Do you want to see them go into this? How many of you know who Karen Watson is? They're going to have a run for her. She came to my class one time, and I just happened to be preaching on hell. This is 20-something years ago. Okay? And I just happened to be preaching on hell. And she went out of that classroom bawling because she had just got saved not too long before that. And she had people in her family that she knew was in hell. She was all shook up. Well, I think maybe it helped her be a missionary. Remember, she died on the mission field. Because what? It should give you an initiative, a desire, a drive to get people to avoid hell. You go up and ask people, are you going to heaven? And they say, well, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm not a bad person. Nobody goes to hell because of sin, do they? Does it? Does anybody go to hell because of sin? Why do you go to hell, Brother Ray? For rejecting Jesus Christ. That's why every Muslim, every Catholic that doesn't believe this, whoever, any Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, you go to hell for rejecting Jesus Christ. Now, if you're in a false religion, that means you're going to be judged like a judge. How many people do people lead into hell with them? Joseph Smith, Charles Taze Russell, Muhammad. These people are going to have some hot places, I'm telling you. There are going to be some real hot places for them because they have destroyed the souls of so many people. Because they trusted in them. They trusted in them to get them to heaven. There's only one way, isn't there? What's the Bible say? The Bible is true. And that's why I'm teaching you this thing so you can trust the Word of God. Have you learned to trust the Word of God better now than you ever did before? Just in the last 6, 8 weeks, whatever it was, 15. This is the 15th class now. Now let's go to the book, page 93. Do you have any questions on any of this first? Do you understand what I just said? Okay? How long is hell, Peyton? For all eternity. How long's heaven? For eternity. They're going to coexist, aren't they? Heaven and hell. One is going to be just as long as the other. All of those people in heaven have glorified bodies? Yes. All those people in hell will have corruptible bodies that will feel pain. We will never hunger. We will never thirst. You won't have to eat or drink unless you want to. I'm sure Marilyn's going to have clam chowder every day and fish and salmon and all this kind of stuff she's wanting. That's what she likes, and avocados and all these fancy things and sardines and kippers and salads and all this. But she won't have to do that to exist. Yeah, and menudo. I have menudo. I don't know whether we're going to eat any animals, to tell you the truth at all. I think all the curse is lifted, and we don't need that anymore. Yes?
I don't know if this relates to it or not, but if you're a Christian and you're cremated,
Yes.
what does the Bible say about that to do it?
Well, I would bury a person if I could. But I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of Christians that died out there being eaten by sharks in the ocean and fish in little pieces. A lot of people died out there. God will have no trouble gathering up that DNA at all. He knows your buried DNA. Woof! And the sea gave up the dead that was in the sea. And the earth gave up the dead that was in the earth. Well, the ashes, you know, a lot of people say ashes, ashes, dust is dust, and all this stuff. It doesn't matter what to do with your body. You can go out there. I know people that have had their bodies cremated and then scattered in the ocean because they don't want God to find them. I've had them pour them in the streams and in the skies and everything because they don't want God to find them. Do you think they're going to hide out from God, Brother Ray? Carol? No, not going to happen. All right. God, yes.
So there's nothing in the Bible against cremation?
I think that a person ought to be buried. I really believe that. I think they cremated maybe Saul, didn't they? Or I'm not sure how, if I remember, because I don't have the total recall that I used to have, but there's a couple of cases in the Bible of where there was cremation, okay? And people burned up and everything. There's even one old gal over there turned into a pillow of salt, wasn't she? God's going to gather her up, whether she's a believer or not. She's going to get resurrected out of those salt crystals one of these days. It's not going to make any difference. Like I said, I would bury people. I think that's very respectful. I don't believe in disturbing graves. I believe in leaving them alone. I think that's sacred ground. To me it is. But other people have different views. All right? I want to be buried. You know, I want to be buried. And, you know, people go out and dig up graveyards and stuff. They move them. They do this. They do that. And I think that they ought to leave it alone. That's my own opinion. Okay, that's all. That's my own opinion. Anything else on this subject? I don't want you to go away half-cocked here. All right? All right? Because it won't go off when you pull the trigger.
Many of our brothers were not a choice cremated.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes that happens. But is God going to have any trouble finding them?
No.
Nope. God's eternal purpose revealed in His ecclesia, in His church. What does ecclesia mean? Anybody know? Ecclesia. What's ecclesia mean?
Called out.
One's called out. Okay. God has only 3 houses of witness, the house of Zeth. Now, I don't totally agree with the writer here on some of the things, so we're going to skip over a little bit of it because he goes off on a tangent. I don't think he knew enough Hebrew to know. He has the faith line as the sons of God, and then the daughters of women were the lost people. And that's not what it's saying there in Genesis in Hebrew at all. We're talking about angels, sons of God, marrying women and bringing forth a race of monstrosities, and that's what brought about the flood. Okay? God has only had 3 houses of witness, the house of Zeth, the house of Israel, and the house of God, the church. Each witnessed in its own period of time. Now let's go on down to the next paragraph. Shem, a son of Noah, fathered the faith line, Genesis 11, through which came Abraham. In Abraham, God chose a nation to represent him on earth, and already noted from his son Jacob came. Jacob's, what was his other name? What name did God give Jacob? Yes, Caleb. Israel. What does Israel mean? Israel. Israel. What's that mean, Brother Ray? Israel. Maryland, Israel. One who wrestles with God. Did Jacob wrestle with the pre-incarnate Christ and wouldn't let him go until he blessed him, and God crippled him. All right? And came the 12 patriarchs who headed the 12 tribes of Israel. These 12 tribes, at a later date, constituted the nation of Israel. When Christ was born in Bethlehem, what does Bethlehem mean? Bethlehem was the city of David, and Bethlehem means house of bread. House of bread. guess who was reaping out there in this field of barley and wheat? Boaz, when Ruth came along. Remember that? And she is a ancestor of Jesus. And this nation had so corrupted the way of God that they were split into several factions. Chief of these factions was the Sadducees and Pharisees. Now, I want to put a little statement out here that I want you to write down if you possibly can, because this is very important. The cross of Christ is the hub. Is the hub that holds the spokes of God's eternal purpose in perfect unity. All false religions try to circumvent Jesus, don't they? There were false religions all during this period of time, weren't they? All of these false religions tried to circumvent Jesus. Now, the cross of Jesus, His crucifixion, His death, burial, and resurrection is the hub that really makes you understand the whole Bible. Then there's, how many of you looked at an old wagon wheel? You looked at one of them, Emma? A wagon wheel? You came by one here. They're falling apart out there because the wasps, you know what tears up the wood around here? It's the wasps, the paper wasps, and the hornets. They go and they spit on these wagon wheels. They spit on your rakes and hoe handles and all that, and they suck it back up and they go make wasp nest out of it. Did you know that? That's how a wheelbarrow handle, a hoe handle, or a rake handle, or a shovel handle would never go away if it wasn't for those paper wasps. They dissolve, and they dissolve houses and do that. They dissolve them. They carry them off. Well, a hub of a wheel, there's a bearing inside that hub, and then there's a hub there, and there's slots that spokes go into, and then you got this ring around it. And that hub is very important because that carries all the weight. The cross of Jesus Christ is the hub that holds the spokes of God's eternal purpose in perfect unity and harmony. In perfect unity and harmony. Now let's talk about some of the people that were in existence when Jesus came along. He leaves some of them out. It gets a little mixed up here. Now this book was written a long time ago. I remember when he wrote this book. This was a long time ago. Now, there was not access to things that we have today. I don't think Brother Alan Atkins ever saw this. Now, there's 22 volumes of this. This is the first and the last volume. This is called the Babylonian Talmud. This is the commentaries on the Old Testament. Okay? Now, we also have the Mishnah, which is the traditions. See, that's a big book too, isn't it? This is the Mishnah. This is the tradition of the Jews. This is what Jesus said. You hold more weight on the Mishnah and the Talmud than you do God's Word. They said the Bible can't be literally interpreted. You have to spiritualize it. It means something else besides what it says. That's where Calvin, Augustine, Luther got all the spiritualizing business. These all millennials. All right. Here is the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is a little late thing. And then you have the Jerusalem Talmud that was written at Tiberias near the Sea of Galilee where those Jews escaped. Now these are some of the books. Now there's 22 volumes of this, people. There's 22 volumes of that. And this is a Mishnah, and a Talmud. Now, I don't think that Brother Atkins had access to any of this stuff. I know that J. Lewis Guthrie did. He could read it in its original form. And some of his writings refer to things like this that you never hear in any other Baptist writings at all. He read the Book of Enoch from the original languages. He read the different books that we have out there, the Book of Jasher. He referred to that. I see him referring to that in his writings that people don't even know what he's saying. They have no idea what he's even saying. Shem, a son of Noah, fathered the faith line, Genesis 11, through which came Abraham. And Abraham, God chose a nation to represent himself on earth, and already noted from his son Jacob came the 12 patriarchs, or of the 12 tribes of Israel. These 12 tribes at a later date constituted the nation of Israel. When Christ was born in Bethlehem, this nation had so corrupted the way of God that they were split into several factions. He says here the Sadducees and Pharisees. Okay? There was a lot more than that, weren't there? There were the Essenes, there were the Pharisees, there were the Sadducees, there were Herodians, and then there were the Hellenistic Jews. These are all factions, people. They're all denominations of what we call Judaism. Now let's look at some of these things. Sadducees, the Romans were in power, and the people of Israel mixed up in religio-political affairs, while the truth of God languished. God's witness had failed. Only a few in Israel, such as Simon, Luke 22:25, were really faithful to God. And remember old Anna? Remember the prophetess Anna that also witnessed to the birth of Jesus? We have Simeon, we have Anna. And it is well that the conditions prevailing at the birth of Jesus and continuing through his ministry be noted. Among the several sects that had arisen possibly during the 400 years of silence between Malachi, and then this goes on before that. This Babylonian Talmud goes back to that Babylon, to the Babylonian captivity. The Mishnah, all of this was being written during that period of time. Now he overlooks this. The Sadducees, the Essenes, the Sadducees, and the Pharisees. Now who were the Essenes, Brother Ray? Do you remember who they were? And for my late, what? Okay, the Essenes were the Qumran. The Qumran caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. Someplace up here I had a deal up here that had a jar like what I got when I was at the Qumran caves. I got to read those scriptures and things there and see where all this stuff was discovered. 1975 and 1976. That's a long time ago. The Essenes down there, some of them were remnants of the original priest in Jerusalem. Who appointed Herod as king of Israel? Herod was from our own line, wasn't he? Herod was from Esau. Jacob was he was the patriarch, not Esau. Esau was of the flesh. He was a scoundrel. He was not the son, but Antony and Cleopatra. And what was Cleopatra? What was she? Now let's find out that for just a little bit, a little hidden thing. Brother Ray, you know what nationality was Cleopatra? Do you remember? Well, she was a queen of Egypt, wasn't she? What was she, though? Marilyn? She was Greek. That's right, she was Greek. When Alexander the Great died, his 4 generals took it at, and the Ptolemies were the ones down in Egypt. And she is the descendant of these Greek generals. Alexander the Great, many people believe, was a descendant of Abraham through Keturah that went into those areas. So we have Cleopatra. You know, you've seen the movies about Cleopatra on television and everything else. Cleopatra was not Egyptian. She was Greek. When the Greek Empire took over Egypt, the Ptolemies. And we have Antony. Of course, you know Antony and Cleopatra and all of these other Caesars back at that period of time. Anyway, Herod was appointed by them to rule over the Jews, the wrong man on the throne. And so Herod killed all the priests that he could kill, killed all that Sanhedrin, and imported some more priests and put them in place. And so that's who we have when Jesus comes. Have you ever heard that before? Any of it? Have you heard this before? Have you heard it? No. How many of you haven't heard it? Raise your hands, please. The Essenes, those Qumranians down there, they all believed in the book of Enoch. You know what the most copied book at the Dead Sea Scrolls was? The book of Enoch, because it's eschatology. And guess what they were looking for? They were looking for the Messiah to come. The Essenes were. And who was hanging around there with them down there? You remember who that was that hung around with them a lot? John the Baptist. Now, many people believe that the book of Hebrews was written to those Essenes because they just couldn't lay down their traditions. And the book of Hebrews was written greatly to them because they held on. You know, they had a community down there. They wrote the scriptures. They did this. They were looking for the Messiah. They were happy. They say some of them even joined the Sicarii. Who's the Sicarii? You know remember who the Sicarii was, Peyton? The Sicarii. How many members of Jesus' group were Sicarii? Of his disciples, of his church. How many were Sicarii? You know that, Carrie? Judas Iscariot was a Sicarii. Simon the Zealot was a Sicarii. The word Zealot means Sicarii. Paul the Apostle was a Sicarii. The guy that carried the cross from Cyrene, that guy from Cyrene, that was a holdout of the Sicarii in that area. And they came in, and what caused Israel to be destroyed was the Sicarii. This is the group. These were radicals. And you know who was the leader of the Sicarii? Who got turned loose when Jesus was going to be crucified? You know who he was? What was his name? You remember his name? Barabbas. What does Barabbas mean, Marilyn? Bara Abba. Son of the Father. Son of the Father. Whose son was he of? One God. These Sicarii would go out into different villages, Jewish villages, and capture them and hold them hostage until they gave them food and money so they could carry on their campaign against Rome. And the Sicarii, how many of you know who the Mafia is? You ever heard of the Mafia? Have you heard of Sicily? The Sicilians? This is where that Mafia came from, was from these. They said that these Sicarii, the ones that escaped from the Herodian, from Masada, some of them went to Sicily. And that's where we have Bugsy Siegel, the one that founded Las Vegas and all that stuff. All of these, I can't remember all their names right now, but a lot of these, this is the Italiano Mafia, the mafioso. I used to rub elbows with them when I was a assistant cook and prep cook down at the Universal Hotel in Bakersfield. The Universal Hotel was where my grandfather, my step-grandfather, Amadeo Lamucci, actually Lamucci is how you say it, Amadeo Lamucci, he was the chef there. And the Mafia, the judges, the lawyers, and the policemen, the mayor, and all of them come rubbing elbows together. And don't you think they aren't happy, in happy company? They all came into that place. Later on, after that retired and they shut it down, Luigi's took over that high clientele. Luigi's restaurant. That Luigi was founded by Joseph, my grandfather's step-grandfather's brother. Joseph Lamucci. Timothy Lamucci, the lawyer. All of these are all the same family. The Sicilians were from these people. They're different people. I know a Sicilian man. He lives in Bakersfield part of the time, in Utah the rest of the time, and he can trace his lineage right back to Masada. Right back to Masada, and his family were all mafioso. All mafioso. That's a little history for you, okay? A little Western civilization. Did you like that? Did you learn something today? All right, now these, the Essenes were a group of dejected and rejected, and those that were left from those that were murdered, those real priests. And so they were down there. And what did the Essenes always say? Those people up there in Jerusalem are nothing but hypocrites and liars and religious thieves. We are the true people of God. And they studied the book of Enoch, which talked about eschatology and the end time, and they were looking for the Messiah to come. The Sadducees. The Sadducees are Sadducee. Say Sadducee. Why do you think they're Sadducee? Because they don't believe in the resurrection. They don't believe in anything spiritual. They are atheists. They're agnostics is what they are. And many modern Jews are Sadducees. Now he says here these people went out of existence. They did not. Most of those people are over there in Jerusalem or in Israel today, and those are the ones that really don't believe. They only use the first 5 books of Moses as a law. They say people will live better, which you will if you live better if you follow the law. But they don't believe in anything spiritual. They don't believe in angels. They don't believe in revelation. They believe that the Bible was a compilation of people's writings, not Moses, but just whatever got there. And it's good laws. It was a combination of the laws of Hammurabi and the laws of Hammurabi. Okay? And it was just good statements and things that were gathered together. These are the Sadducees. And they're sad, you see, because they don't believe in the resurrection nor eternal life. They don't believe in any of that. And remember who the people came to Jesus said? And he said, I know a woman. There was a certain woman that had 5 husbands. And all of them died. And when she goes to heaven in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be? Did those scoundrels believe in the resurrection? That's a joke. And Jesus turned it on them. He said, you what? You err not knowing the Scriptures. Because there is a resurrection. There are angels in heaven. The angels in heaven do not procreate. The angels that left heaven did. That's where you have the Nephilim business. Then you had the Pharisees. We talked about the Essenes with the Qumranians. Now the Qumranians some of these people, some of these writings might go back to 1,000, 2,000 years before Christ. I'm telling you, there's, when you go back to the Qumran, there are different occupations of them, and they were all religious zealots at that time. They were people that went in and they studied the Scriptures. They lived there. They lived a communal life, kind of like Israel was supposed to. And and they were the ones they're true prophets of Israel. They're true leaders of Israel. And in all reality, they probably were. The Pharisees now, the word Pharisees comes from what Hebrew word? Mene tekel upharsin. You know what that is? I just spoke to you in what language? Mene tekel upharsin. What language did I quote? Huh? That means separation, to divide. Mene tekel upharsin. That's what Daniel saw on the wall. Remember? In Babylonia, when the wall, the right handwriting on the wall, that's what it said, mene tekel upharsin. Numbered, fade, wanting, and divided. And then we have the word, in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. Peleg is from that. And the Pharisees took this same root word, pharis, and they say, we're Pharisees, we're separate from all the rest because we're better than they are. We're more lawful, we're more religious than anybody else. And then there were the Pharisees of the Pharisees and the zealots of the Pharisees that were the zealots, the Sicarii. And these people would go around. In the movies and the mafia, you usually see them shooting guns, shooting Al Capone and all these people, shooting everybody down. But the Sicarii, what did they originally do? It's called dagger, isn't it, Maryland? Those are the dagger men, the Sicarii of the dagger men. Look this up on Google. You don't think this? Look it up. Chase it out. Check me out. The Sicarii, they had these real slender knives with sharp points on them, and they'd come up behind with their capes on, with their robes. They had robes back then, you know. And they'd slip this knife out from under, and they'd slip up behind a Roman soldier, and then stick it in the pit of his stomach and push it up in his heart and twist it and walk off. They were assassins. Judas Iscariot was an assassin. That's what he did. So does it leave you with any doubt that he was part in the assassination of Jesus? Because he was an assassin. He was an apostle, he was a church member and all that, but he was still an assassin, wasn't he? The kind of rascal that he was. The Pharisees today are your Orthodox Jews. They're still hanging around today. They're the ones that put all of this together. The Mishnah and the Talmud. And later on they wrote the Jerusalem Talmud at the Sea of Galilee and Tiberias. Let's go on down. We talked about the Sadducees. And they believed that when you died, you were annihilated. You just went off like they believe Rover does, or a fish when you kill it, or a bird when it falls from the sky. They thought you just died. Now we know a little more about that than some theologians do, because we know a little bit of Hebrew. The animals have souls. Nephesh. Yes, animals have souls. Animals have chaya. They have life. They have spirit in them, and they have basar, they have flesh. They are made up triunely. God made a lot of things triune, didn't he? A lot of things. Are angels triune? I mean, you get some of these Bible teachers and read these books on angels and everything else, you're going to see they're dual in nature, but they're not. Angels are triune. Do angels have material bodies? Yes. Those material bodies can go between all 10 dimensions without having a problem like Jesus did later, walking through walls and everything. Walking from one dimension, a period of time, into the other. Go from time, go out back in eternity and then bust into time. Yeah, they can do that. But they have form. They have spirit. They have spirit. They have body, and they have souls that are eternal, aren't they? Yeah. Now, are angels going to be, these fallen angels, are they going to be put into the lake of fire forever and ever? Are they going to burn up? No. Let's look at some things about on page 95. The Sadduceeism, is Jesus combated them because he said there were various degrees in future punishment, yet annihilation admits no degrees. Number 2, they condemned the soul full of shame and fear under the divine anger, and annihilation would be relief rather than punishment. In other words, when you died, you would suffer no more. This is where you get the idea when you're dead now, he's released from suffering. But if a person is lost and dead, they went into more suffering. They're going to carry that with them forever. The punishment of men is the same as that of the wicked angels who reserve the judgment of the great day, believed to tremble instead of rejoicing. Number 4, the other scriptures, phrases which describe the destruction show that in the final lake of fire there is weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, and it is eternal. The Pharisees, which we've talked about already. Now, there were some Pharisees that were saved, weren't they? Who were some of the Pharisees that were saved on page 96? Saul of Tarsus. He was a Pharisee and a Sicarii. Both. There was Joseph of Arimathea, which was probably the uncle of Jesus. And then we have Nicodemus. All right? These are all Pharisees. The spirit of Phariseeism, he says, still abounds in many characteristics found in Christendom, and no less smelly, odious to Christ than of old. Some of the differences between Pharisees and Sadducees are set forth in a brief summary found in the Dictionary of the Bible by W.W. Rand. Now, he talks about the Talmud here. Besides the belief and traditions which the Sadducees rejected, by the way, the Sadducees rejected all of this. They rejected all of it. And the Kabbalah is going to completely spiritualize the real meanings of the Scriptures. That's the Kabbalah. This is where they completely spiritualize the Scriptures. You can't understand the Word of God unless you see the spiritual meaning of it. And how many of you ever listened to Harold Camping on family radio? All the time. Let's see the spiritual meaning, because he spiritualized the Scriptures. He was an amillennialist. He was all messed up. He said he studied the Bible 7 years in the King James Version and Strong's, and he came up with no education from the seminary or anything else, and he got his own ideas, and he started his own religion, basically. They had the best music in the world this side of heaven, I'll tell you that much. They took Valley Baptist Church's choirs 20 years ago, and you'll hear it today on family radio, because we had some of the greatest choir in the world there at Valley Baptist Church. He's talking about the Talmud and the Mishnah. And then at the bottom of the page, he said, while the Pharisees scrupulously tithe and the most trifling products, they disobeyed the divine requirements of justice, mercy, and humility, Matthew 23 and 23, and compare Micah 6 and 8. While they rigidly fasted at fixed times, they neglected the abstinence from selfishness, which God commanded, Luke 18 and 12, and Matthew 23, 14. Compare Isaiah 58, 6 through 10, while they carefully practiced external ablutions of the person and utensils. They baptized themselves all the time. They were all the time baptizing themselves in Bitsmoth. And they washed the pots on the outside real good. And Jesus said you need to wash the inside part, your heart. Okay? Matthew 23, 25 through 28, and Mark 7, 4 through 23. They taxed the conscience of the people with trivial questions such as whether it was lawful to eat an egg laid on the Sabbath, or whether it was lawful to walk across the grass on the Sabbath, because you might sow seeds that were growing up in the grass. Jesus rebuked them. They talked about what kind of lamp material, the wick of the lamps, of the candles, or the olive oil lamps that they used. That had to be, they had to do everything just right. Do you have any questions right there? It's about time to go. Yes, Caleb.
What does rebuke mean?
What?
What does rebuke mean?
Rebuke, it means to say you're wrong. Rebuke. You are wrong. That's what rebuke means. You are wrong. He rebuked them. Now, he told the people, he said, do as they say, but not as they do. Because what they tell you, okay, that's all right. You ought to tithe in all ways. But do not do as they do. They had Corban. Corban was what he's talking about, selfishness. They would take their mothers and their fathers, which they didn't have Social Security or any way to take care of them, and a mother and a father totally depended upon his children to take care of them. And they would say, Corban, I'm dedicating all of my wealth to the temple area so I can't take care of them. Now, these are the Pharisees. And he said, you've made none effect the law of God. All right, so there's what we'll start right there. Did I answer your question? Anything? Do you have a question, young lady? No? Ray? Sister Schrader, you got a question at all? No? Carrie? All right. Well, I'm going to turn you loose out on the world. Go out and do something eternal. And thank you for being here. Carrie, would you dismiss us in prayer again today, please?